The headline there is that skills are portable. And one of the things that people have to recognize is that they are more than their resume.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Too Young to Be Old by Diane Gilman. And by the way, perfect title of my podcast for a perfect guest, John Tarnoff, who is all about helping mid-career professionals land better jobs, rediscover their why in life, fight ageism, and enjoy a great career, albeit a new career. Here's a man who talks about boomer reinvention and how to create your dream career over the age of 50. So if you are somebody who is seeing a very tumultuous job market and you're thinking to yourself, I may be standing in that unemployment line soon, you have got to watch this episode and hear from a man with tons of experience, but more importantly, a totally unique point of view how to get yourself into your dream job after 50. See you then. It's me, Diane Gilman, and I'm going to talk about it again. Red light and what it does for your skin, your blood circulation, your production of collagen, your overall health. There are a whole series of devices, but today we're talking about Magellan, which is a red light face mask. You want to see a true improvement to your skin. If you've got fine lines and wrinkles, if you've got acne or have breakouts, if you are feeling very pale and wan after the winter, red light is a miracle, and I will predict, I am going on record as saying that red light and what it does for your overall skin health, the largest organ on your body, is so far beyond any topical you can put on by itself. Now, I will do the red light. The face mask, Magellan, has so many little light points. Easy to wear, soft, pliable. I do it religiously every other day. It has made a tremendous difference. You'll see in 20 years, everybody will be using red light, but you can be one of the first with the Magellan red light face mask. Do it, ladies. You'll love it. You'll see the results so quickly, and you'll never look back, and you'll say, Lady Diane Gilman, she really knew what she was talking about. Yeah, in this instance, I do. It's a miracle. Red light is the future here today. Well, hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly known as the Queen of Jeans, but now the proud host of my podcast, Too Young to Be Old. And speaking of, let's talk about the job market. And let's talk about John Tarnoff when we're talking about the job market, who is going to help mid-career professionals land better jobs and keep better jobs. Okay, John, there could not be a more topical time to discuss this with tens of thousands of layoffs. And I'm actually going to use a blog title you came up with, the AI resume apocalypse. I literally never wrote a resume in my life. I had no resume. I dressed rock and roll stars. I never went to fashion school, and nobody would hire me, so I just did it myself, produced my own collection. But when you tell me that I am honestly going to get interviewed by a robot, and that keywords I put into a resume I may have written in a very broken-heartedly kind of way because there are so many layoffs now. Oh, please, let's talk about this.
Okay, let's unpack this. We live in an age of AI. AI is clearly the most disruptive technology to hit the world since the beginning of the internet.
Yeah.
And right, so as part of that, companies are always trying to use technology to do things cheaper so they can make more money, employ fewer people, let's be honest about it. And AI is a perfect vehicle for that in a bunch of different ways. But ironically, I think that the more AI becomes a part of the equation, the worse off, in some respects, the worse off companies are going to be if they don't really understand what the value of AI is to their companies. I would submit that hiring and firing is not where you want to use AI because it has to do with people and relationships. My belief about this, particularly in the work that I do coaching mid and late career professionals on how to navigate the broken job market, is that at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. The tenure of your job is going to really depend to a certain degree about your performance and what you do. But to an even greater degree, it's going to depend on your ability to navigate relationships, build relationships, understand how to work with people and collaborate.
Okay, so you say that you are all about boomer reinvention.
Well,
How
that's
to
the title of
create
my
your
book.
dream
I wouldn't say
career. How to create your dream career over 50. You do that. I mean,
right,
first of
right.
all, you've
Well,
got a whole generation where AI looks very alien,
right.
feels very cold, feels very unemotional. And it's interesting to me because whatever approach I used to always get funding for my fashion collections, it was always done in a very heartfelt way where I was very confident that I was a money maker, but I could never truly put that into a resume. So I was always facing constant rejection,
Right.
constantly forced into a situation where I had to do it myself. What happens? You've been in a job for 20 years and you suddenly get a notice, we don't need you anymore. And obviously you're being replaced by AI or you're just being
Well,
shrunk
you're probably being replaced by someone younger,
or
right?
someone younger. How do you reinvent yourself? I mean, that to me is the real key to
Right.
survival here.
The headline there is that skills are portable. And one of the things that people have to recognize is that they are more than their resume. And I say this to people all the time. The key to career reinvention at any age, but particularly for people who've been around the block a few times, I want to advocate for two principles that I use in the work that I do with people. The first one is that the career you want is already inside you. You know, after all the years that you've been on the job, the wisdom that you have accumulated and earned through life, through business, through relationships, through, achieving whatever you've achieved. You understand inside what it is that you love to do, that you do well, that you can get paid for, and that your world, your industry needs, right? Those are the four so-called Ikigai questions, this Japanese notion of life's purpose. So it starts with that idea that it's inside you. Know that it's inside you. Your task is to figure out where it is, where it's hiding, and bring it out. But then the caveat is that in order to create the future, you have to reconcile the past. We all accumulate baggage over the course of our lives and careers, whether it's a deal that went bad, we got fired, we burned a bridge, whatever that is, someone did us wrong. If we don't go deep, forgive ourselves, forgive the other person, accept what's happened to us in the world, use it as a lesson, not as a cudgel, not as a black mark, in reconciling that past, it frees us to proceed into the future with a clear slate.
What happens? Because I recently heard that a whole group of people got fired because there are these mass firings now. They actually had great track records and they had just gotten reviewed and it was a good
Sure,
review.
sure.
But the only way that the entity could fire them was to say something negative about them. They never showed up for work. Their track record was lackluster. And now they can't even get unemployment. What is your recourse when it
Yeah,
isn't even a living, sentient being that is tracking and retracking the course of your life?
right. Well, if you get fired, you can get unemployment. Um, people who are laid off can get unemployment. Let's just get that out of the way. Here's the thing: if you are going through life as a supplicant. A supplicant, someone who is begging for alms, right?
Okay.
Supplicant, right? If you are taking the attitude that you are this poor professional, you're a job seeker, you want the company, some company, any company, please to give you a job.
Yeah.
If you bring that attitude with you, particularly later in life, you're dead,
Yeah.
right? You may as well just
Desperation
cash it in,
is not attractive.
right?
Right.
So no one likes a victim. On top of that, if you are older, you're supposed to have it all figured out, right? You're 50, 60, 70. You tell me what's going on, right? I don't, I want you to use all of that expertise to help me out at the highest level. If you want to just be a drone, I can hire younger, cheaper drones to do that,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
So one of the big disconnects that I find with people that I work with is this sense of identity, the sense of relationship to the job market overall, and their relationship to that job market. Just to cut to the chase here, you've got to define not where you can fit into the open positions that are out there. You've got to define what your superpower is as a professional. You've got to define the very clear, very niche value that you provide out in the world. And then you have to find the people who need what you provide.
Yeah, and I think therein lies the giant pot at the end of the rainbow. Because I think as we age, we're told to step aside. You're not center stage anymore. And you don't even need a voice because we don't necessarily want to hear the voice. Am I wrong in thinking? Because I had to make that choice when I left television and fashion. What did I have to offer the world? Well, I could talk. And I chose a way of doing that did not have any corporate layers, where
Yes.
I could be my true, authentic self, never have to explain to someone, just hope that the audience found it interesting, informative, entertaining, and an attractive way to spend half an hour. But is is that how you counsel your baby boomer clientele, that it's going to have to be more self-possessed, more individualized and customized? Because that's how I see this part of life.
Yeah, basically, yes. However, not everyone wants to kind of go off and be an entrepreneur, start their own business. A lot of people want to continue working, and people who are in their 50s, particularly, and I work with people 45 to 55 and up. My clientele tends to be in their mid 50s, late 50s. They're hitting a wall. So
Yeah,
used to being good boys and girls in the corporate world, and they're starting to realize that the corporate world really has no loyalty to them,
totally.
right? So the re-education process for me is about helping them define that superpower. What is that niche value? Restricting them from going, well, I can do anything. I've done all these things. It's like, no, 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 no. You've got to figure out that one thing, right? And they say, but I'm leaving money on the table. It's like, no, you're not. This is your way in. This is the way to drill through the wall, open the door, whatever the analogy is you want to use, and get yourself landed. Once you're landed and they go, oh my God, you do such an amazing job with that one thing that you do. What else can you do? We need you over here. We need you over there. Find that niche and really develop a value proposition around that niche. And the value proposition is about what you deliver, not what you do. It's not about your roles and responsibilities and the team that you managed and the where you fit into the hierarchy. It's what did you deliver? That's where you start.
Do you even convince a large corporation to give you a chance or listen to
Okay.
you?
All right. So this is where the second element comes in. The second element of this is not about applying to jobs. It's about building relationships. And if you are lucky enough to currently have a job and you have been lazy about keeping your network up, you got some work to do. You got to get busy because you don't find a job, particularly at age 50, 60, or 70, because you're answering a want ad or a job posting, right? You're going to get
Yeah.
swept away. We were talking about AI. We don't have to kind of go into the bells and whistles of AI. It's going to sweep you away. You need to have not just a network. You need to have a community within that network, a subset of people who really understand you, who vibe with you, who get what you deliver, and who are able to market for you and bring opportunities to you, make connections for you, and really have your back. So you need to create a community of shared interest within your network and update them on what you offer now so that they can go get you that job.
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I left my community behind. I had built a community of followers on TV.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in fashion anymore. I wasn't on network TV anymore. I'm going into a whole new stratosphere called social media.
Right.
And it was interesting. All the younger people I knew, half my age, they knew about social media.
They
They
got
may
it.
not have worked in it, but they lived it.
Right.
I had to do a lot of catching up to do. I get that was a totally different network. And so it seems to me you have to have, like the rings of Saturn, a substrata of networks, the professional network close to what you did for most of your life. The other professional network, your lawyers, your doctors, people that are well placed and they have networks of patients that do all kinds of stuff that may help you. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly right. It really is about leveraging and maximizing that network based on affinity and based on having a tribe. Really, that's what a community is. So my joke is a network, kind of everyone you've got in your contact file, a network will stand by and watch you fail. But a community of shared interest and purpose will step in and help you succeed. And that is the distinction for me between network and community. You want to focus on community. But who are the top 50 people? If you look at the 500 plus people that you're connected to on LinkedIn, who are the top 50? 30, 50, 70, whatever that is. Those people who really you believe are your tribe. That's where you got to start.
You know, it was very interesting to me when I left my profession, and I was pretty sure I would be a complete emotional wreck if I just retired, which was correct. So I joined some women's clubs, and most of these
Yeah.
clubs are about older women. Not one of those women, not one out of one club had 2,000 members, not one was on Instagram or TikTok. There was a huge resistance and emotionally packed wall against anything modern or moving forward in life. And that's where I think there is a gigantic problem when you go into the market as an older person. There was even, I remember going to a club meeting and one woman said, oh, we were going to do something and send out emails. And she said, I'm not learning email. It's going to go away. Oh my God.
Bye bye, lady.
So the
Bye bye.
point is what I found in having to start a whole new career, which
Mm-hmm.
has been actually a lot of fun, um,
Hello.
is you cannot stick yourself in an age ghetto.
That's right.
If you
Ah,
only have
absolutely.
people your age around you, you are in a lot of
Yeah,
trouble.
I was going
You've
to say
got to
you
be
joined the wrong club,
homogenous.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about age. It's about affinity. It's about purpose. It's about support. And I think the value that we have in this network world, and there's lots wrong with it, lot of stuff wrong with social media, but the fact that we have access, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I get clients from LinkedIn. And I'll talk about thought leadership in a minute. People say to me, "Oh, I hate LinkedIn. LinkedIn has become a swamp. I'm not on LinkedIn anymore." It's like, really? You don't have the discernment to be able to figure out what LinkedIn is good for, what it's not good for. You ignore what's bad about LinkedIn and you go for what's good about LinkedIn. You define your experience on the platform and find other people who are using the platform for the same purpose, and you're going to build traction.
Yeah, I think that one of the toughest things about getting older and still wanting to be active in some form of career, purposeful career, is surrounding yourself with people who are completely adept at living a modern life in the moment right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
otherwise, I think you fall so far
Yeah.
behind that your intentions may be good, but your purpose is never respected or
Yeah.
recognized.
So let's talk about ageism for a second, because
Ah,
this brings
let's.
up this question. And look, I have been an anti-ageism advocate. I talk about it, sure, but I'm not one of these people who's constantly complaining about how ageist the world is. It's like, okay, yeah, the world is ageist. You're not
Deal
going to
with
change it
it.
overnight. Deal with it. Circumvent it. If you have a really clearly defined superpower, if you know what your value is, what your skills are, what your deliverables are, nobody cares how old you are. They want what you deliver, right? So appeal to them on that level. And of course, the fact that you are appealing to them where they need you is going to kind of force you to kind of get with it a little bit and research how to best present the value that you offer. And that may require you to learn a few new skills about how to work in a technological world. But at the end of the day, it ends up not being about age. It's about getting things done.
And the interesting thing is, you've got to be, and I always say this, be honest with yourself. You don't have to share it with anybody and
Right.
be self conscious. So when I thought about it, I thought, okay, I'm not going to be in fashion anymore, and probably difficult for an 80-year-old anyway, but I could have been if I wanted, but I really wanted to try something new and challenging. I started to list just on a restaurant paper napkin,
Right.
what are you
Back
good
of the
at?
napkin. Yeah.
And I realized I was good at speaking and I was good at figuring out, feeling in my heart of hearts what my age group
Right.
wanted to talk about, but didn't have anyone to talk about it with.
Right.
And it's been a fascinating journey from
Yeah.
that point of
Yeah.
view, but it's pretty far away from fashion. But to come up with a whole new set of criteria and say, I don't care if I'm 79 years old.
Yeah.
I still want a career, but I want a different career that uses some of the skills I developed over the years on TV. That has been so exciting and so satisfying. And so I personally would say to anybody out there, if you are in a position where you can do a self analysis and come up with something attached to what you used to do, but separate from, that really pings your heart and makes you excited to get up every morning, that's everything.
So this is great. This brings up the third point in my three elements methodology, which
Okay?
is that you need to not just define your superpower, not just create a community to market that superpower and connect you to opportunities based on that superpower. You need to become a thought leader around that superpower. You need to stand up for what you stand for and use every available platform, in-person organization, connection to talk about what's important to you about the work that you do, about the industry that you're in, about the trends that are going on, about the threats that are looming for you and your colleagues in your industry, so that you can build trust in your expertise and further kind of ice the cake, if you will, around what your value is, so that you end up talking about issues in your industry that are affecting people's lives, affecting product development, whatever it might be that you do. You're not talking about getting a job. You're not talking about the specifics of what you do, but people are listening to you, talking to you, and the wheels are turning. You're showing them how you think. You're showing them the quality of your leadership as a professional. They're going to go, huh, this person, maybe we should kind of talk to this person about coming into our company. Maybe we should have them come in and, meet some of the people and maybe do a little informal assessment about, where we're going and what we're doing. Maybe I should set this guy up for lunch with my EVP. Who knows where that's going to lead? That's part of this process to elevate you as the professional, as the job seeker, as the career builder, no matter what age you're at, and really lock it down.
For me, and especially for me as an aging woman, I found that that whole part of my generation in some way had never been educated or been outside motivated to have a voice. When I thought people said, "Ah, Diane, you don't know anything about social media," and I thought, "Yeah, I do. I shop on social media. Okay, I can talk on social media." They said, "You don't know anything about it." And the field's so crowded with ages. And I thought, no, it's not. If
For
you've
what?
got an original thought pattern, if you've got an innate burning sense of purpose, you want to get out there. And frankly, social media, it's really, really easy to do that. What's not so easy is to be constantly consistent, but you will find a place in the
Yeah,
universe.
yeah,
But you got to, I think one of the big things is don't listen to all the blah, 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 blah. You're not going to succeed. You're going to fail. That's stupid. There's millions of you out there.
right.
Believe in yourself. Make every minute
Yeah.
count.
Find your community, build your
Ah,
community. Your community will support you. Your community gets what it is that you do.
they want to be a community.
We all want to find our community.
I never really thought about that until I came up with a very individual but very broad universal idea for fashion on television, BBC and HSM, which was nobody was servicing the middle-aged woman
Right,
who had grown up in jeans, been sexy in jeans all her life, and
right.
suddenly
You're
at
not Brooke Shields.
45 or
You're not Brooke Shields
50,
anymore.
yeah, you can't do it anymore.
Right.
And so I just had to work very hard at converting that message, which had a product that was the purpose,
Right.
to a message for a slightly older customer, because we've grown up and older
Yeah.
together, who says, I don't feel like I'm part of any universe anymore. What do I do? And so they used to call me the Queen of Jeans. Now they call me the Lighthouse because they say that I
Mm,
shed light to
love it.
the middle-aged and aging woman who doesn't understand her place
Well, there's your
in
superpower.
humanity anymore.
There's your
Huh?
superpower. There's your superpower right there.
It was such a
Yeah.
distillation of everything, every
Yeah.
single talent I had
Yeah.
honed
Yeah.
in 30 years of TV and
Yeah.
50 years of fashion. But what I find is, and tell me if I'm right or
All
wrong,
right.
because you're the expert. If you're good at something and you can find the overview of that, that will take you through life. So for
Absolutely.
me, it was
Absolutely.
about delivering a positive message and
But
wasn't just about jeans.
you're saying something else, which I think is really important, which is that your superpower, so-called, soi-disant, is malleable and evolvable. So
Oh yeah,
right. So your superpower was Queen of Jeans, but then you created another superpower, which is the Lighthouse.
yeah.
And for people who are in career transition, and I often deal with this with people, they go, well, how do I take what I used to do and translate it into the future? And that superpower doesn't work anymore. It's always possible to rejigger that superpower, to go, okay, what do I love to do? What do I do well? What does my world need right now? Not what it used to need, what it needs right now. What can I get paid for? Somewhere again, these are the Ikigai questions. At the intersection of those questions, right now, today, there is an answer. You found that answer as the lighthouse. But that lighthouse takes everything that you have learned and done and achieved from your Queen of Jeans era and before, and now pays it forward into a new configuration. And we're all capable of doing that, no matter how old we are.
To tell you what I added to that, truthfully, to make it as powerful as it is, was getting breast cancer at 72 years old, having to go through it alone, and having to just totally reform my life.
Yeah.
But also, I had to be my biggest cheerleader. I
Right.
had to be the biggest believer that I
Right.
was going to survive. And then I got this really strange progression, my personality, where you're in a waiting room waiting to get your infusion, and there could be 50, 75 women in there. And I had this huge motivation to lift other women up. They're all sitting there crying, and I'm sitting there, la la la, I'm gonna be okay, waiting for my transfusion.
Right.
And
Right.
um, so I would say it's never too late to develop a super important part of your
Yeah.
personality. In conclusion, what I find that trips so many people up is they calendar their lives. Take tragedy. You don't need to make it into comedy, but you would be amazed how tragedy can reforge you because you have to go through fire and you come out a different, stronger, more focused, more precise personality. Look at me. I'm just like little Miss Pollyanna, and that really is not me at all.
It's true.
But I do believe this because I'm never going to stop fighting for excellence
That's right.
in my life. Yeah.
What choice do you have? Right? It's either that or fold.
Or give up.
Right? And so you're here. As long as you're here, you may as well have fun, right? You may as well optimize the life that you've got, right?
Yeah.
You don't get any points for being miserable.
Yeah. And have some pride of ownership of what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
And the real key, I think, to your over 55 clientele is it ain't over till it's over. You can have another and perhaps huger success in your 60s or 70s or even 80s
Yeah.
than you had in your conventional career that was more youth oriented.
One thing which this brings up for me, and back to you being the lighthouse, is the idea of a service mindset. There
Oh,
is
yeah.
so much value in seeing what you do from a service point of view. One of the things I work on very closely with my clients is their LinkedIn About section, which is universally ignored, misused by people on LinkedIn. They think it's a bio. They think it's, you got to list your skills. You kind of talk about yourself. Me. Here's what I do. Here's what I did. Wrong. It's a mission statement. It's a statement about who you are, why you do what you do, whom you serve, where you're going with your career. It's a way of starting a conversation with people out there who would much rather scroll through 25 profiles to kind of see if something sticks out. You want to be the person who sticks out. You
Yeah.
want to be the scroll stopper, right? You
Yep.
want to be that show in TV Guide which goes, well, wait a minute, when is that on? I gotta leave work early to see that show, right? You want to be that person. So
Yeah.
it is all about whom you serve. I was just working with a client yesterday about this, and she's talking about her career and what she's done and the business that she had. I'm saying, no. You got to talk about the client. You got to talk about who your client is. You got to meet them where they are. You got to share. You got to make them understand that you understand them. Talk about their
Oh,
pain,
yeah.
right? Talk about what they're concerned about.
Yeah.
Understand them first so that they can go, oh, this woman gets me. Oh, I need to talk to her. She
And that you
understands what my problems are.
appreciate them. People used to say to me, oh, come on, Diane, you make a $39 pair of jeans and you're wearing a $3,000 Yves Saint Laurent sweater. And I said, that has nothing to do with it. Really concerned with what my customer, what this lady is going through, what her limitations are with her budget,
Yeah.
how much she wants her dignity
Right.
and sense of body pride back
Right.
again. I think, that was another one of my
Yeah.
really biggest strengths was being able to have an open heart and a
Yeah.
heart dialogue
That's right.
with the customer
Yeah.
and appreciate her, understand her, never judge
Right.
or look down on her because she didn't live a fairy tale life
Mm-hmm.
like me. That is exactly
Right.
one of the valuable skills I use for podcasting.
Yeah. So here's a tip for job interviews. Your MO in a job interview is not about getting the job. Your MO in a job interview is about making friends with the interviewer and building a relationship with them. regardless of the outcome. Because, if you get the job, you get the job. If you don't get the job, you'll get another job. But you have an opportunity in that meeting to build rapport with someone who can be in your network and maybe be in your community. And that person, if you develop that rapport with them, will become an ally. They will become an ally within that company. If they're an independent recruiter recruiting for a company, they have other recruiter friends, they have other clients. You want to build a bridge. And sure enough, you may find if it doesn't work out, you get a call in a month from that person who says, hey, I know that job didn't work out, but I have this other position that just opened up at this other company. I think you'd be really good for it.
Well, I certainly hope that I personally and on a professional basis can do that with you, John Tarnoff, because honestly, you have such a unique way of approaching something that I think is a huge brick wall for most people and very, very needed in an age of AI and kind of converting to robots from humans. And so we will list in our graphics everything John Tarnoff. And
Great.
You know what? I learned so much from today. I related so deeply to what you had to say. I really want to thank you for being on Too Young to Be Old.
Diane, you're kicking ass at 80. I love it. You are not just a lighthouse, you are an icon. And I think we should all aspire to be so open, energetic, positive, and loving as we get older. So
Thank
bravo.
you. That makes me feel really privileged. Thank you so much. Another great episode. Yay. It's true.
Thanks. Yeah, this is great.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young.